I'm Julie Wilkerson. I'm the Executive Director of Macon Arts Alliance. And Macon has participated, we're a Knight community, very grateful for that Knight Foundation, and they have funded our participation in the AEP studies since 2010. We did the 2010 study that came out in 2013, did the 2015 study that came out in 2017, and we did the 2020 study that was done in 2022 that came out in 2023. So it's great, and we can't really, I know that this year's study we can't compare to what the study 5 years ago because some of the criteria was different. But there are some things we can look at by participating in that study that's very helpful for me. One thing that was very, the overall, well, we're not comparing, but the jobs went down in there was a global pandemic. Actually by 20% in Macon-Bibb County. I think it's about 20% across the country as well. And the Macon Arts Alliance itself, pre-pandemic, we were a staff of 5. We are now a staff of 4. So one of the things in AEP that I noticed from our Macon-Bibb County study was that the organizational impact numbers were a little less, but the audience numbers were a lot higher. And what that told me is that audiences are back and they are more supportive than ever. And I'm sure you've noticed that in your own communities that people want to help and they want to come and they want to support. And I know Randy's going to talk about some of the social impact questions that they had this year too and those answers. And it just reiterated how important arts and cultural opportunities are to people in your community. It's what I really, also there was a question about the 414. So, you know, it was a labor of love, I know, for Tina, because we have 57 arts organizations, nonprofit arts organizations in Macon, and it is pulling teeth, sending emails, begging, cajoling, and we got about 50% of our arts organizations to respond. Some of those 57 probably are just, they're listed, but they're not really active anymore. But I would encourage you, if possible, to try to participate for your own community. You can use the Georgia numbers. That's so much better for you personally than using the national numbers because it speaks more to our state. But it has been very helpful to us, and that's a little bit what I want to talk to you about today. We've heard a lot of data, and there's nothing like getting that blue sheet. We've got a blue sheet just like that for Macon-Bibb County, but if it just sits in my drawer, there, you know, that was not $10,000 that was well spent, right? So how do I use that? And there are a lot of ways. One is exactly what we're doing here for advocacy. I can talk to we're partially funded by the hotel motel tax in Macon. About 7 to 8% of our budget comes from that tax. So I can go to our county commissioners and justify our funding and say, you know, here's the impact of arts and culture and just nonprofit. Again, it doesn't include the for-profit organizations. Here's the impact of the nonprofit. For Macon-Bibb County, we had 3 million audience members in 2022. We were a little higher. I think 72% were local and 28% were visitors. So I can say to them, we've got 28% of people coming to these 3 million people coming to nonprofit arts presentations and arts and cultural events in Macon-Bibb County that are coming from out of town, and here's the money they're spending, and that's why you should continue to give us funds from the hotel motel tax. So that's a pretty easy thing that you need to do. You can use it in all of your, every one of my Georgia Council for the Arts, what's the benefit of your organization to the community starts with, well, the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study 6 says that this much, but that is the truth. That is the benefit to your community. There's a huge economic benefit. But behind all that data are stories. And you know that every one of those audience members is someone who is who's experiencing some sort of arts and cultural event. There's education in there as well. And so I would encourage you to look at those numbers and figure out what the stories are behind that data, because when you're talking to someone, whether it's a legislator to advocate for funding or whether it's a foundation You need to use this data in grant requests, use it when you're talking to people trying to get sponsorships for your events. But then also make sure you know the story behind it so that you can say what the impact is. And Randy's going to talk a little more about the social numbers too, but that's a great thing. Now I know that 92% of people who attend nonprofit arts and cultural events in Macon-Bibb County do it because they feel like it's important to their community. So all of those things you can use and you should use when you're justifying your existence and when you're advocating for arts funding for yourself or also for Georgia Council for the Arts. So when Tina talks about how much money, how many grants Georgia Council for the Arts gave, Georgia, am I right, Patrick? Are we bottom of the barrel now? No, we're still. Okay. Imagine what could happen if we actually had real per capita funding for arts in Georgia. Imagine what can happen. So when you talk to a legislator, I hope some of y'all will go tomorrow and talk, you can say, you know, we got this Georgia Council for the Arts grant, or maybe you've never gotten one. You know, maybe we haven't received one, but if they had more funding, we could receive one. And our community, which is the community that you, Mr. or Ms. Legislator represent, could also have this impact. Because look at this impact that's happening across the state. So I am here to tell you to please use the information. We've been using it for years. If you can find a funder who will, and really, I think some people's government, local government funds the study. If not in Georgia, I know some other places. If you can find a way to fund it, that's great. Because Georgia had a state study, we got a little discount on our local study. So what we did was used that for a micro study of downtown. We gave after the zip codes of downtown that we wanted to use. We have a defined urban core, and we now have two studies. We have all of Macon-Bibb County, and we have downtown, because we didn't really have a way to say in Macon-Bibb County that downtown is the cultural center of Macon-Bibb County. It was something that we all knew anecdotally, but we've been trying to get an entertainment district zoned for a lot of different reasons. That's very beneficial, but we really didn't have data to back it up. Well, of those 3 million audience members, 92% were downtown. Of the expenditures, 92% were downtown. Of the organizational impact, 75% was downtown. So now we have data that we can go to, along with Newtown Macon and Visit Macon and other partners, go to our county commission and say, we want an entertainment district zoned downtown, which we've been asking for a while, and here's the data that backs it up. And again, it's just nonprofit. This is just nonprofit. Doesn't include the bars and the music venues that are downtown. So there are a lot of ways to use the data, and you should use it, and you should really, if at all possible, I know it would help Tina. I know what it was like to get information from 57 organizations. I can't imagine getting it from 414. That's a lot. That's great. And also, now that you know, encourage other people who maybe rural areas around where you live or other arts organizations that you know, that when Georgia Council asks for these studies, how important they are. Because the more people that respond, especially that organizational impact, it can only be for the people. So Macon's is, you know, could be 50% higher, right? These state numbers could be 50% higher than they are. That could be double. So all of that's important. And I'm wrapping it up. So that's my encouragement for the day. There we go.